A catastrophe is looming. The F-16s have crossed the wrong sky and are now dancing over Kursk as if they were untouchable. Meanwhile, Washington's armchair strategists applaud their own brilliance, convinced that these jets will change the course of the war. But in Moscow, the anti-aircraft systems are already calibrated, ready to turn this maneuver into a spectacle of fire and metal falling from the sky. Thus, Trump, the genius who promised to fix everything with Russia, watches from his golden balcony as his grand bet collapses. Kyiv, desperate, throws its last Western toys to the front while the Pentagon feigns surprise as they start getting shot down. Do they really believe Moscow will respond with flowers? The skies over Kursk are no longer a tranquil space. Western F-16s have been spotted over the region, marking a dangerous milestone in the conflict. Alarms in Moscow did not take long to go off. This deployment is not just a reconnaissance flight, it is a warning. This development is no secret. Russian sources have confirmed it outright. The presence of these fighter jets over Kursk is a fact. Their incursion means that borders are no longer clear, that the war has crossed thresholds once thought unbreakable. For Kyiv, the F-16s represent a deterrent. For Russia, they are targets. It is not the first time Ukraine has put jets in the air hoping to level the battlefield. But now the risk is enormous. Moscow will not allow them to fly over its territory without consequences. Russian forces do not passively observe. The airspace over Kursk is protected by anti-aircraft batteries designed to eliminate any threat before it can cause destruction. If anyone believes the F-16s can operate with impunity, they will soon learn otherwise. There is no room for mistakes. Every sortie brings those fighter pilots closer to an outcome that could mark a breaking point in the war. Is this a desperate tactic or a deliberate provocation? In any case, time is running out for the pilots daring to cross the threshold. The role of these jets remains unclear. Is their purpose to pave the way for Ukrainian bombings or simply to gauge the Russian response? Whatever the plan, a sustained incursion will only lead to inevitable losses. The enemy has no room to maneuver in skies controlled by Russian radar. Reports confirm the worst. This is not an isolated event. The F-16s are already patrolling Kursk alongside Ukrainian MiG-29s, attacking with JDAM and hammer munitions. It's a dangerous game where every second in the air could be their last. Recent engagements have sent a clear message. There is no immunity for these jets. The MiG-29s have already fallen, victims of Russia's S-400 systems. It is only a matter of time before the first F-16s are shot down, and with them, the illusion of Kyiv's air superiority. Russia has wasted no time. Within hours, military deployments in the region have intensified. Defense systems are on high alert, ready to neutralize any threat in the air. Meanwhile, F-16s have been spotted not only over Kursk, but also over Kakhovka and Donetsk, suggesting that their operational range is expanding dangerously. The situation is becoming increasingly uncertain. Analysts like Boris Rosen warn that using these jets is pushing Ukraine to the brink. Betting everything on incursions into highly monitored areas is not only reckless, but could accelerate the collapse of its air force. These incursions into Moscow-controlled territory defy logic. These aircraft are operating in areas where enemy superiority is overwhelming. If the goal is to demonstrate power, the result may be the opposite, a display of vulnerability that will end with more smoking wreckage scattered across the ground. The numbers do not lie. Of the 12 F-16s sent from the Netherlands, 4 have already been destroyed in an alarmingly short period. One of them was not even shot down by Russian fire, but rather by a fatal error within Ukrainian ranks, a clear sign of the chaos reigning in Kyiv's air strategy. The equation is simple. Every loss is not just a material blow, but also a strategic one. Neither speed nor advanced weaponry has been enough to evade Russian missiles. Electronic warfare and anti-aircraft systems have demonstrated that there is no safe space for these jets in Kursk skies. Despite these setbacks, the plan remains unchanged. From bases in Vasilkiv and Cherkasy, the F-16s continue taking off, heading toward the Sumy region. Initially, Their flights seemed limited to reconnaissance missions, but the situation has evolved. Now, aerial combat has moved into the most hostile sectors. Western fighter jets are traversing corridors where every movement is tracked in real time by defense batteries. Exposing themselves to this level of danger is not bravery. It is practically a death sentence. However, the real issue goes beyond the military. The presence of these jets in Russian airspace is pushing tensions to a breaking point. Washington and Moscow have avoided crossing certain red lines, but this deployment could erase any attempt at de-escalation. With each incursion, the room for diplomatic maneuvering shrinks. Donald Trump finds himself at a crossroads. His rhetoric, oscillating between confrontation and diplomacy, now faces an unexpected obstacle. The tension with Moscow, far from easing, has escalated to a level that could redefine global equilibrium. The deployment of these jets in the conflict zone is a direct torpedo to any chance of détente. From the Kremlin's perspective, this maneuver will not be seen as a mere tactical decision, but as an open threat. The possibility of retaliation, by any means, cannot be ruled out. Meanwhile, on the ground, the war dynamics are tilting further in Russia's favor. In Kursk, attacks have reached unprecedented intensity. In Kyiv, thermobaric fire systems have forced Ukrainian forces to abandon their positions. Operations are not limited to a single front. Elite Russian units have launched lightning offensives in Kyiv and Nikolskoye, dismantling Ukrainian defenses and securing control over key sectors. The balance of power continues to shift inexorably. On the other side, Ukraine's attrition is evident. Ukrainian ranks are dwindling daily, without enough reinforcements to sustain the front. Russia's war machine, with virtually inexhaustible resources, offers no respite. The disparity in capabilities widens with every engagement. Faced with adversity, Kyiv has played its last card, the F-16s, its hope of leveling the contest. Now, they soar through airspace where their superiority is minimal. Entering this battle is to accept a nearly sealed fate. But the consequences extend beyond the military front. The decisions made in this conflict are shaping a new geopolitical landscape. The deployment of these jets is not just a technical challenge. It could seal the definitive deterioration of relations between Washington and Moscow. The issue is no longer purely military. What is at stake goes far beyond the battlefield. With every new action, the risk of a global escalation becomes harder to ignore. The introduction of F-16s into the Ukrainian conflict marks a dangerous escalation that could have far-reaching consequences beyond the battlefield. While Kyiv views these jets as a game-changer, their presence over Kursk has only heightened tensions with Moscow, increasing the likelihood of direct retaliation. The rapid losses of both F-16s and MiG-29s demonstrate that advanced technology alone cannot overcome the harsh realities of Russian-controlled airspace. Ukraine's reliance on high-risk incursions suggests a growing desperation, as its forces continue to face an opponent with superior military infrastructure and resources. Beyond the immediate combat, this deployment sends shockwaves through global diplomacy. The conflict is no longer just a regional war. It is a chessboard where Washington and Moscow maneuver dangerously close to a direct confrontation. With every downed jet, the fragile balance of power teeters toward an irreversible escalation. The world watches as these high-stakes gambles unfold, knowing that one miscalculation could ignite a chain reaction with catastrophic global consequences. What do you think? Are we witnessing a desperate move or the beginning of an even greater conflict? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated on this critical situation. The skies over Kursk are changing. Stay tuned.